But what worked for me in my healing journey was the first two things that I really tackled was my concept of self and my emotional regulation. You see, when we're in these toxic and narcissistic relationships, one of the things that just gets completely out of whack is we start to be completely emotionally driven and we lose all concept of logical thinking. And I didn't want my emotions to make a decision that compromised my peace anymore. So I would start to give myself a time every single day where I sat down and checked in with myself emotionally. How am I feeling? Am I feeling happy? Am I feeling angry today? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling confident? Am I just not feeling anything? But the point is I would give myself permission to feel these emotions, name the emotions, and process them. Simultaneously, I was working on redefining my worth and my value, because a lot of these other things, like my dissociation and the behaviors and all of this stuff and how I was looking for value, all of that really kind of started to fix itself when I started to redefine what self-worth was. So let's talk a little bit today about the effects of complex trauma. For those of you guys that don't know, yes, I am a narcissistic abuse survivor and a trauma-informed coach, but I am also a doctoral student in occupational therapy. And right now, we are learning a lot about trauma. I gotta tell you, it's hitting a little bit too close to home. The good thing about it is it's been very validating for my experience, and I know for a fact it's gonna be validating for yours. So I want you to be able to take advantage of the knowledge that I'm learning from my school without having to pay the tuition fees. The effects of complex trauma is going to show up in 6 major areas of your life: relationships, emotional regulation, behavior, cognition, dissociation, and your concept of self. So let's break all these down. It's pretty obvious that in relationships in general, after you deal with narcissistic and emotional abuse, you're gonna have some trust issues. You're gonna deal with this fear of being victimized again and going through the same exact thing. So therefore, it does create difficulty forming healthy and safe relationships. It's also hard for us to recognize what healthy relationships are. And I'm just very grateful to my therapist that she warned me that healthy is probably going to appear boring after a traumatic relationship. Because one of the things that kept us in these traumatic relationships was the high level of excitement. Because whether we realized it or not, we were addicted to the thrill, the super highs and the super lows of these relationships. Number 2, with emotional regulation. Sometimes after you leave these incredibly toxic and abusive relationships, you have a hard time not just managing your emotions, but even understanding what you're feeling. And this can lead to a lot of competing thoughts that are going on in your brain. And sometimes we have these feelings of, I hate them, but I miss them. What I was doing, and this isn't necessarily what everybody does, but I was definitely channeling a lot of other emotions and painful emotions into thinking about how I missed them. Was I the problem? What are they doing now? Because I had such a mental fog going on, and there were so many emotions that were going on at one time. I didn't know how to handle them, so I just was a hot mess express. It also can give you some extreme reactions to things on both ends of the spectrum. You can become extremely reactive, or you can just become extremely numb. Both of these are defense mechanisms. Now, when it comes to behavior, we can start picking up characteristics and traits that actually make us think that we're the narcissist, but it's actually a response to the complex trauma. So these can be things like, maybe we're a little bit more reactive than we're used to. Maybe small things affect us in ways that it didn't used to, and we get angry more easily, or maybe get more aggressive. Some people even turn to coping mechanisms that help try to numb the pain, like substance abuse, or being really promiscuous, or just taking risky behavior and getting that thrill again. And a lot of this with the behaviors really tie into the emotional regulation that we have a lot of trouble with after we get out of these traumatic relationships. And when it comes to cognition, it's actually been shown in studies that there's a lot of ADHD type symptoms that come from complex trauma. So maybe you're having a hard time keeping focus. Maybe you're having a hard time remembering things. Maybe you're not on top of your game at work like you used to be. Or people tell you hey, get this done by this date, and you completely forget it. Or maybe you forget appointments. Again, all of these are due to the complex trauma. Dissociation, this was the one that was probably the most interesting to me. We actually disconnect from the present moment. And if you think about this, this is actually something that we taught ourselves in the relationship, and it was a way to protect ourselves emotionally. See, when you're dealing with just feeling physically unsafe or even just traumatic experiences in the relationship in general, oftentimes we can do something that's called dissociate, which is where we emotionally remove ourselves from the situation in order to not have to deal with the emotions of the situation. For example, when my narcissistic ex would start raging out, it was almost like mentally I went somewhere else, and it became this out of body experience to where it was like I was watching this happen, but I wasn't living in the moment. Well, this can carry over after the relationship. But now that we're out of the relationship, this is still taking place, because just because the relationship ends doesn't mean that these mental patterns and habits that we've picked up on just go away. So maybe now you're daydreaming, or maybe you're just kind of lacking motivation, or maybe you're lacking emotions altogether, and you're just not able to live in the present moment. This can be an example of like when you're out with a group of friends and they're all having this conversation over here, and you're over here mentally, and you're just dreaming and daydreaming and just thinking about whatever else you're thinking about. And that's when your friends look at you and be like, Trey, you okay? Now, the one that I think is the most obvious is going to be your concept of self. Our self-image and our self-worth are so deeply damaged after we deal with these toxic and narcissistic and abusive relationships. And it's really hard for us to not internalize their actions as a reflection of our own worth. And this can carry over into every aspect of our life, to where we actually withdraw from even just planning out our future and just seeing that we're worth success and we're worth going and accomplishing the things that we want, or even getting healthy and new relationships. We lose this whole concept of self, that we have worth and we have value, because for God knows how long, we've been constantly fed a message by this person that we aren't worth anything, that we don't have value, that we are dependent on them, that we're nothing without them. And unfortunately, in my opinion, this is one of the most difficult things to reclaim after leaving a narcissist, but it is the most important. But what worked for me in my healing journey was the first two things that I really tackled was my concept of self and my emotional regulation. You see, when we're in these toxic and narcissistic relationships, one of the things that just gets completely out of whack is we start to be completely emotionally driven, and we lose all concept of logical thinking. And I didn't want my emotions to make a decision that compromised my peace anymore. So I would start to give myself a time every single day where I sat down and checked in with myself emotionally. How am I feeling? Am I feeling happy? Am I feeling angry today? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling confident? Am I just not feeling anything? But the point is I would give myself permission to feel these emotions, name the emotions, and process them. Simultaneously, I was working on redefining my worth and my value, because a lot of these other things, like my dissociation and the behaviors and all of this stuff and how I was looking for value, all of that really kind of started to fix itself when I started to redefine what self-worth was. And self-worth is an inner belief. It is an all-consuming belief that I have worth and that I have value. And it's not based on any other accomplishments. It's not based on what anybody else says about me. It's something that I'm grounded in and that I own, and nobody can take away from me. And I'll be honest, it's something that I still am working on today, almost 3 years after being out of my narcissistic relationship. Because this is something that I've struggled with my entire adult life. It's part of the reason that I even got into this narcissistically abusive relationship, was because my worth has been so defined by outside sources for so long. It's gonna take me some time. Is it a lot better than it used to be? Absolutely it is. There's times where like, you can't tell me otherwise that I'm awesome. And then there's other days where I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. And it's okay, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna be on both ends of the spectrums. The whole purpose of this video is for you to understand that there are real side effects to complex trauma. And healing does take time, but more importantly, it takes work. It's not gonna just go away on its own. It's something that we have to work on a daily basis. I truly believe that breaking this obsessive thinking cycle and really stepping into your future after a narcissist is really a sum of small daily disciplines that are added up over time. Ultimately, the amount of time doesn't matter. It just matters that you're making small steps every day to get you towards where you want to be. Breaking this rumination cycle, breaking this pattern of like, am I still in love with them, or I miss them, and all of these side effects that we just talked about. It's a result of daily disciplines that are added up over time. Keep in mind, there is no timeline when it comes to healing. My healing timeline might look very different than your timeline. We all have different levels of trauma. The amount of time is not what's important. It's the work that you're doing, because you're worth the work. Hey you guys, thank you for watching this video. I wanted to come on here real quick and make sure that you knew that my course, Breaking Free from Rumination, is now live and available. This course is designed to help you heal from the pain of narcissistic abuse, specifically the betrayal, and help you regain your peace by overcoming this obsessive thinking cycle that we all find ourselves in. I really truly believe that this course is going to help you do in 6 weeks what took me 6 months, because I was having to figure this out all on my own. So I took everything, all of the tips, all of the tricks, combined it into a 6-week course with specific homework, specific strategies, with scientific-based articles. There's multiple different videos from authors and other creators to help explain all the parts that keep us stuck in this obsessive thinking cycle. So please don't wait any longer. It is available for you now. Just go to the About Me section in my profile, go to the Beacons link, and you'll find it right there. Please continue to follow me for all of my free content on this platform. And as always, I am so grateful to be a part of your healing journey.